friends, enemies, assorted potted plants. I come to you today from Beige Voidsville with a message of positivity and solidarity. Wrote some stuff down. So, the good guys are gonna win, I think. I do genuinely think that. The assaults that are happening legislatively and also literally against LGBTQ people and also trans people specifically are bad. But they are not unique. And when these things have happened before, let me talk about one of those times when something like this has happened before. Brown v. Board was passed in 1957, and that officially ended the process of segregation in the United States, at least as far as schools went. Officially it ended, but unofficially it continued on for lengthy periods of time. Some people, some very reasonable people, would suggest that it is still ongoing, but I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about one of the most well-known instances of attempts at keeping schools segregated failing. The NAACP had enrolled 9 black students, 9 exceptional black students, it must be said, into a high school in Little Rock, Arkansas. The school board in Little Rock had assured them that they were taking efforts themselves to integrate schools, so the NAACP thought this would be a surefire way to show that these exceptional students wouldn't be causing any trouble for the white students. The NAACP was wrong. The governor of Arkansas at the time, one Orville Flabus, or something, his name doesn't matter, he's a piece of shit, he deployed the National Guard. He deployed the Arkansas National Guard on August 4th to prevent the 9 black students who were supposed to attend Little Rock, from attending their school. Successfully. As long as the National Guard of Arkansas was under the control of the then governor, the piece of shit, the Little Rock 9 were not able to go to that school. This was such an outrageous move that the school board of Little Rock spoke out against it in no uncertain terms. And this was such a boneheaded move that the then mayor of Little Rock reached out to the then president, Dwight D. Eisenhower, and asked, "We need people to keep the peace here. Something needs to be done. Is there anything you can do?" And Dwight D. Eisenhower, in his great wisdom, stroked his chin and he said to himself, if these people, if they have a Nazi problem, I have a Nazi solution. So what Ike did was, he invoked the Insurrection Act, and then he sent the 101st Airborne, the Screaming Eagles, the combat unit that had the most experience fighting the literal Nazis in World War II, to protect the students at Little Rock. He also later nationalized the Arkansas National Guard so that they wouldn't be able to resist. That was on the 24th. For 20 days, the students at Little Rock were not able to go to school. And then the good guys stepped in. So, this is precedent. This is something that current people who are in similar offices can invoke to perform similar actions. If, say, a state decides that their bigotry is legal precedent, is legal law, and tries to ram that down the throat of their students, the precedent is that the president can just send in the army and tell them no. This is important. Ordinary people may not remember this, may not understand the ramifications, but you can bet your ass that the fascists do. These fascists, these people who want to genocide LGBTQ people, and especially trans people, they don't tiptoe around that issue. They don't cover their words in as much plausible deniability as they can, just because they like being sneaky. They do it because they understand if they push too hard at the wrong time, they're dealing with the army. Not the National Guard, not people who shoot children, the army. They are very cognizant of that, and that is something that they want to avoid. So, times are bad. There are the threats against LGBTQ people, and especially trans people, are horrible. I'm not going to sit here and pretend that they're not. They truly are. I made a video about how you should support trans people. Go do that, however you can. But I feel like it gets forgotten that the way that you fix these things is not by just letting them happen, not by asking nicely for them to stop, but by actively disrupting those processes. The civil rights movement didn't just go to Congress and ask people to vote for the Civil Rights Act. They disrupted shit. When discriminatory laws were passed, they broke those laws purposely and in a coordinated fashion. They broke them so much that there was no feasible way to enforce them. Or when there were feasible ways to... When I say that there weren't feasible ways to enforce them, I mean that at the time there were not enough jail cells to hold the people who were doing sit-ins. And they were cognizant of that, right? I hear people talk about, like, Rosa Parks. Rosa Parks wasn't just some random woman who got swept up in a series of misfortunes. Rosa Parks was a lawyer. Rosa Parks knew what she was doing when she said she wasn't going to move, and she did it on purpose. And I think that that deserves more credit than if she was just a random person. Right? Because she planned it. Not just her, there were like a dozen other people who they had who were planning on doing that. And, like, you can just back out of that. And they didn't. And that's something we can do. We can challenge these discriminatory laws, not just the anti-LGBTQ laws, but laws prohibiting access to abortion, or laws prohibiting teaching certain curriculum. If you break the law so much that there is no feasible way to enforce it, then the law becomes null and void. And that's one of the ways that they fought during the Civil Rights Movement. It's not the only way, but it's a good way. If a law is unjust, then it is your responsibility to disobey it. And if you disobey it, like, you're not going to be by yourself. Ordinary people do not support the things that are happening. They see what's happening, they see where it's going, and they don't like it. But and I hate to say this, but more important than that, in a legislative sense, the corporal scumbags see where things are going, and they don't like it either. So if ordinary people start behaving in disruptive manners, then the corporal scumbags are going to also start doing disruptive things and combating these things legislatively. Not out of the kindness of their hearts. Corpo scumbags have no hearts, they have no souls, they only have pits where endless amounts of money go. They're going to start fighting these things, these disruptive actions, because they're going to start affecting their bottom line. In some cases, this has already happened. You have companies like PepsiCo and Disney who are being specifically targeted by legislation in places like Florida, right? So they already have a dog in the fight. They just need to be pushed a little harder. The far right, like the bad guys, people like Matt Walsh and people like Ron DeSantis and Donald Trump, they have some political power and they have some middling media enterprises. And they have about 70 years worth of coordination. And I don't think that's enough. What they are doing is provoking the outrage and hostility of the rest of the country. And if it comes down to some rich Christians or the well-being and safety of the rest of the country, then what's going to determine who wins is the highest office in the land. And right now, that's someone who promised that they're on the good guy's side. And I think that's all I have to say about that. I am all said out. You know where the comments are, you know where the likes are. Leave one or both if you want to. I'm not going to leave anything in the description. Go donate to a trans charity or something if you feel like giving your money away. And, yeah. Until we get there, right? Go out, do something important, and take care of yourself, alright?